the value isn't in the photograph itself and the wood and the canvas that created that canvas. Like that's not where the value is. The value is in what they feel and experience when that wall art is on their wall or when they're flipping through that album and creating that connection between what the art is and then what the value is for the client.
Hello and welcome to the Studio Takeover podcast. I am here today with Andrew Funderburg from none other than Fundy. Andrew, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I've been really excited about our conversation and was even like kind of going back over, my notes for this morning for this call. And one of the things I was really excited about with Fundy, because you and I met a few months ago before WPPI.
Yeah. And I can't believe we hadn't met before that.
I know, right?
No. Did you come to the party?
Oh, I came to all
party?
of the things.
Because we throw parties every year. And, the challenge is getting people excited because there's so much going on at WPPI. Right. And so I was talking to the marketing team. I'm like, us photographer creatives, we love ourselves. So we made individual invites with everybody's photo on them, right? And everybody's like, oh, I'm going to show off this picture of me, which is also the invite of the party. So
yeah, I was like, play. That's like guerrilla boots on the ground style. Like, let's get some momentum here. So I thought that was pretty terrific. I actually used that as an example for my associate photographer when they were kind of working on some marketing for Q2. And I was like, okay, well, I want you to call all of your past clients that haven't been here for over a year and, make an invitation for them to come in and use images from their session. Look at what Fundy did for this party. It's always fun to get, fun marketing ideas and connect with different networks, right? And I thought, you guys did a beautiful job of that.
Oh, thanks. And it's so hard this day and age because everybody's so creative and there's so much going on. So like coming up with something sticky is super hard this day and age because there's just advertising is so much better now than it was, even 5 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and in something, in a convention situation, and like we're talking about WPPI, it's not, maybe 100 people. There are thousands and thousands of people in this space. The leadership team there does a really terrific job of like packing that schedule. So you always walk away wishing you could have done everything or having missed whatever. So one of the things that really I have enjoyed about your product over the last few months, since really like going through that introduction with you, is we never did a lot of album design as a portrait studio, save for the occasional customer who was like, no, I want an album, right? We focus primarily on folio boxes. And I personally do not love album design. Like old school in Photoshop, like forget it. I don't have time for that. But, when I started looking at the numbers and was just like, well, my capacity in an album is much higher, like from the money side, from the sales side of things, than it is with my portfolio boxes. But it was the design thing that was just such a time suck. And when you and I met a few months back, it was really about like, look, and I'll let you kind of speak to the detail of it, but it was like, we want you guys making at least another 50K in revenue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So where did that come from?
So that 50K number, so that's our goal. So we have three primary goals in the company. One, the main primary goal is we want future generations to have their photos in print like past generations do, right?
Yeah.
So there's, kids growing up today, sometimes they just don't have any physical photos of themselves, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but you fast forward 75 years and then, they pass away and their grandchildren don't have any photos of them, right. Like who was this person? So, the fact that everybody should have photos in print of themselves and their family, super important. And then number two is that, I have been an entrepreneur my entire life. I've never really had a job past the age of 25. But as entrepreneurs, we just work too much. Like we're wired to just always be working. And
go. Yeah.
Right. So number two is how much time savings we can add to the product. Like, if we can save you a half an hour to an hour with every single client you have, minimum, then those hours add up, right? That's a 2-week vacation at the end of the year. And then number three is helping people make more money, an extra 50K. We came up with that 50K just doing ad hoc polls in our Facebook group. And 50K seemed to be about the average. And with a lot of people making over 6 figures extra with the software per year, quite a few people making $250,000 extra per year. So that's our goal, is that, and those numbers, like 50K is cool and it sounds cool, but like that's tuition, that's college tuition and room and board for a kid in college. I have a son just graduating college, so I know how much it costs.
I know the intimate details of college tuition.
That's mortgage and a car payment or two.
I like that you actually connected it to the outcome, right? Because so often, when we're in the education space or vendor partnerships or any of the rest of it, like numbers become arbitrary. It's not about the number. It's about what the number does for you. So if you make another 50K in revenue, you get to keep maybe 20 of that after taxes, after overhead, after all the things, right? And so what is 20K going to do for your life that you personally get to net? And if you're like me, right? Like album design, like please. It's understanding that just that tool, and I haven't even gotten to the wall art mock-ups or any of the rest of it. Like it's about appreciating what that revenue does for you, because we come into this space and we're like, I just want to shoot and get paid. Right. But you have to really find the tools that allow you not only to automate and, do those kinds of things, but execute at an efficient level and still be effective.
Yeah.
What does that 50K actually do in your world? Is that college tuition for your kid and not having to work harder? Or if it saves you a half an hour, right? And I've actually found it's more than a half an hour, at least in my world. But if I'm looking at a calendar, right? And let's say we have 8 clients a month, right? Okay, well, there's 4 hours. 4 hours for what? 4 hours that I can focus on marketing. I can focus on shooting. I can use for my own creative shoot that doesn't make me money because you guys just made me money.
Or pick up your kid from school.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of having them take the bus or take a nap every day right before you pick your kid up from school, right?
Oh my gosh. I can't. Naps? What are those? Yeah. So how are your photographers finding it? Like, as far as not just the product, but what it's doing for them. Are they connecting those dots? Like, are they seeing those results, not necessarily like 50K out of the gate, but in the space of when we're talking about Facebook groups, right? And in ours, it's very much like, oh my God, this product was X, right? I was able to go do this because of this. That feedback been? Are they requesting more or additional tools or operations within the program? Or is it really like, oh my God, this has been a godsend?
Yeah, I mean, there are always like feature requests, but we've gotten to the point right now where people are like, yeah, I can do what I need to do very quickly with the product how it is, right? And with the new version 11, the goal was to create automation based on what you want, right? So for example, you go do a shoot, you can import all the photos, do basic retouching, skin retouching, under eyes, eye brightening in a click. So it takes 2 seconds to retouch all the photos. And then you choose what type of album design you want. You choose your set of templates for your wall designs, right? Whether they be collages of multiple canvases, or maybe you have canvases where you have, 3 or 4 images on one canvas designed, and then a set of cards if you want, right? So family, you could do holiday cards, or high school senior, you do grad cards. And those are your templates, and then you click a button and it designs everything for you. So you have base designs done even before your clients come in, if you would like, and then takes 2 seconds to set up your slideshow. And so you can just do a slideshow of your images and designs right away. And I would say about half of our users will start with a slideshow of like a few favorites and then the designs themselves, and so that the clients fall in love with the design before they fall in love with the individual images, and then just be done. And then some will go the more traditional way where sit down slideshow of all the images, client chooses their favorites,
Mm-hmm.
and then you click a button and you can design 10 wall groupings from your studio selections, and then just go through them and they choose which ones they like and what images they want on them. So it's that power of being able to instantly design and instantly show, like, let's say you're walking down the street and you're going shopping and you see like this really nice dress in the window. You're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I want to check that out. And then you walk in and it's a furniture store, right? And when you're trying to sell big wall groupings and albums and the slideshow starts off with individual images, I feel like it's a little bit of a disconnect with the client versus just starting with the design
Mm.
of the wall art and the album in the slideshow. And then the clients are like, okay, yeah, I get like, oh yeah, I love that wall grouping. Maybe swap out some of the images.
Sure.
I love that album design. Maybe we'll swap some of the designs, but it gets them focused on the design, which are the high ticket items versus, oh, I love this photo. Let me get an 8 by 10.
Right, right. Well, and understanding the sales psychology behind that, right?
Yeah.
Like you were saying about the disconnect,
Hmm.
understanding like, okay, if my end game, right, is, at least a 5K sale, then I know wall art really needs to be a part of that versus me pushing them for a collection of 30 images.
Yeah.
And it's really like, okay. And then when you start talking about mediums, right? Like we use Graphy,
Yeah.
and with Graphy Studio, there's even like the option to print on leather,
Hmm.
which just blows me away. So then it's just about like, okay, upgrading into that medium or having the acrylic or the canvas or whatever your standard offering is. And having them like, because we teach about that in a design consult, right?
Yeah.
So even before we shoot, we're talking about design elements and getting photos of their walls, even if it's a cell phone snapshot,
Yeah.
right? Like, hey, make sure you send me the cell phone snapshot of your living room or where you're thinking of putting this stuff, right? And then on that consult, really leaning into the value of wall art. So
Hmm.
being able to then have those mock-ups available, especially with their walls.
Yeah.
They're just leaning right in and they don't
Hmm.
want a box, right? They want to look at this every single day. And I
Yeah.
remember when I was shooting weddings, and this was, God, 100 years ago. The expectation was they're going to have this forever. And no shade at wedding photography, but it's like, well, how many of those couples are still together now?
Hmm.
And so some of that wall art goes up into the attic, right?
Yeah.
Like when divorces happen and so on and so forth. But when you get into those, like especially with families, and I find really exciting has been boudoir lately.
Hmm.
Boudoir is leaning more into wall art pieces and those collages. Like several of my clients want like one big image over 3 to 5 pieces.
Yeah.
When it's kind of like an implied nude or bodyscaping or something like that, it just brings it to another level. It's not something that they can just upload on, some consumer site here.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's really been the way to just kind of bring that elevation. So it's not just a tiny book or a
Hmm.
folio box. It's okay. And now I can educate you about that on the front end, talk about it during the shoot, show you what it looks like in
Yeah.
real time. And,
It's so important to
show
talk
it. Yeah.
about products and design before you even pick up the camera. Like
Oh,
that's
yeah.
where the sale is really made. And I think for people who are not confident in selling, imagine you do a shoot and if you do a slideshow of the photos
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, oh, choose your favorite. And then, would you like to see this in a wall gallery or something like that? Like it's a difficult question for someone that's not good at sales. But if you pre-design 10 rooms and you show them a slideshow of that and you bring up those 10 collages in the rooms, and then you just say, which one do you like best? Like that's a really easy question to ask, even if you suck at sales,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like, which one of these do you like best? And they say, oh, I like that one. Pull that one up. Do you like these photos in it or do you want to change some out? Right? It's a very positive, easy conversation if, for those people who are, just getting started. Like it's really
Right.
hard when you first start selling your own photography. Like it's so much easier to sell someone else's photography than your own, right? Because you have so much emotions. So those first, that first 10 times you do it can be really hard. So it's a really easy way to get into it. And
Hmm.
then, you see that first success, you're like, oh, this really worked. And then you just kind of build on that.
Yeah. Well, and the way we teach it is to be showing and screencasting to a large TV and then
Yeah.
having those mediums right around, getting back to that sales psychology piece, right? Like having those pre-designed pieces that are just kind of plug and play.
Yeah.
You drop them in and so on and so forth. And that can all be just preset for you. Having the mediums there in front of you so that everything's right there. The second anybody stands up, deal's off,
Hmm.
right? Because all of negotiations are always done seated,
Yeah.
right? The second you stand up, you're selling to them.
Hmm.
And when you take them out of their focus space, which is that imagery, and walk them into a hallway to show other la la la, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my artwork's on the hallway. Let's go take a look. There's going to
Hmm.
be immediate resistance from the sales side.
Yeah.
And when you create resistance, especially if you're new, like that just makes your job 10 times harder. So
Yeah.
when we can have everything in one central location, right? Screencasting to that TV, those mediums, they can touch them, feel them, see them in real time, especially if they're not visual people too,
Hmm.
right? How many of us have had those clients that just like, I don't know, we haven't done it in a while and I should. Oh, what's an acrylic? Like
Yeah.
they don't know what we know and they
Hmm.
can't see the way they see. That's why they're hiring us.
Yeah.
So when you have the right tools in place to actually make that, whether it's transactional or a relationship, right, more effective for them, they're happy to pay you because you made it seamless.
Yeah.
They don't have to now hire an interior designer to figure out
Mhm.
and configure XYZ. It's all right here.
Yeah. Yeah. They will pay on value, right? And if you really
Mm.
help them decorate their home and show off their family and show off what's important to them, that's where the value is. Right?
Mm.
The value isn't in the photograph itself and the wood and the canvas that created that canvas. Like that's not where the value is. The value is in what they feel and experience when that wall art is on their wall or when they're flipping through that album and creating that connection between what the art is and then what the value is for the client.
Well, and that's the outcome, right? Like we were talking
Yeah.
about, even, talking about the purpose was to really, get photographers making more money, right?
Hmm.
What does that do for them? What does it do to have imagery on your walls that shows you embodying the most confident version of yourself
Yeah.
or the most vulnerable version of yourself or the way your daughter looks at you when she's 3,
Hmm.
right? Or the way that,
Especially when she's 17 or 16.
right? When she rolls her eyes and you're
Oh
like,
man, we
okay,
had
this
some
is the
tough
little
teenage
girl.
years with our kids, and man, we would look through those little, we would just get out the old albums and look at when they were 3 and 4 and loved us unconditionally.
And there was no disparity there, right?
Yeah.
Uh, well, and two, there's been a lot of studies too, especially in the family photo space, right? Of having that tangible evidence there for your kids growing up
Yeah.
that they are loved,
Yeah.
right? And the impact that has for their own mental health when they're
Hmm.
growing up and maybe those tougher times, like, in middle
Yeah.
school. God.
Not the best.
Yeah. Certainly not the easiest. Mitzi Starkweather. Are you familiar with Mitzi?
I don't believe so.
So Mitzi is just this amazing woman. She's in Missouri. And she was giving a talk at the Graphy booth at WPPI and talking about she has a young son. I think he is 3. I think he's 3. And she's been very cognizant of printing work large and, he's a part of her every day, right?
Yeah.
And she also does a lot of like Instamax Polaroid, like the
Mhm.
little tiny,
Yeah.
tiny images. And she took a photo of him, like I think on a hotel bed or something. He was looking at something and the light hit beautifully. And she handed him the photo and was like, "Look, I love you so much. Like, this is for you." And
Hmm.
he looked at the photo and said to her, I can't wait until this photo is all grown up and big on the wall. Like a
Yeah.
3-year-old.
Yeah.
Ugh. So how do you find the photographers that are in that digital only space? Are you finding that they're transitioning into, more printed work and looking for tools, or is it a pretty like hard line between them?
So me personally, like I've been so outspoken on the importance of print and stuff, is that I think that digital only photographers avoid me. Like they don't talk to me. Like I know people in the industry who are digital only and stuff, and I'll see them at convention and like they'll like avoid eye contact and like walk the other way. So usually in our Facebook group in our company, we usually come in contact with people when they are either just starting the journey or already on the journey of offering printed product. So it's everybody's like just super positive about pandemic when everything shut down. Like we did this series with photographers on like going back to all their old clients that didn't order
Hmm.
anything print, right? And so many of our users, like that's how they survived, is they,
Oh.
because they couldn't shoot in a lot of places, and so they just went back to all their old wedding clients and like sold albums and portrait clients, etc. Some photographers made more money than a year sitting behind their desk in Zoom selling albums and prints than they made the year before actually shooting, which is kind of funny. I think that's one of the great things too, is when you get into creating those wall collections that you love and your clients love, and then, figuring out what that album company is and those covers that you love, you want to offer your
Hmm.
clients, that it invigorates your business. And it also, I feel like it takes a lot of pressure off of always having to have your calendar booked all the time, right? The more you make per client, you just don't have to shoot as much,
Right. Well, and
which,
appreciating what the sustainability of that looks like for
yeah,
your time. Like I spoke with a photographer this morning, and she's in a space where, she's just overloaded. Right.
yeah,
And I think she said she did like 95K or something in 2023.
yeah,
But everything's digital and everything's gallery driven.
yeah.
And if you know
95K, that's
me,
a lot of shoots.
at $850 a shoot,
Yeah,
delivering 50 fully retouched files.
yeah,
And I was just like, when do you sleep? Because she's not outsourcing anything, not delegating.
yeah.
And like, I think she said she's just recently started picking up with Evoto, just
hmm
for, those general selections.
yeah.
And I said, well, so what does it look like if you start offering product? And she
hmm
said, well, how would I do that? I can't do that because then I wouldn't make any money. And I said, well, I think we're going to have a
Let me
longer
tell you something.
conversation. But, like, and that is affecting her, health. She's sleeping 2 to 4 hours a
Yeah.
night. She's been hospitalized for anemia a few times.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you don't want
And
that.
that burnout is real.
Yeah,
And that's why I think sustainability is so valuable. And that's not to say you can't have digital only things for branding clients and things
yeah.
like that.
Well,
And
that's
digital
so,
can be included.
yeah. And that's one of the things that we focus a lot on because, before Fundy Software got up and running really big, I shot weddings, had a portrait studio. And for me, that kind of workflow is really good. So one of the things that we try to do is focus both on the front end
Hmm.
and the back end. So on the front end, things like being able to export wall art previews so you can throw those up on your website or share with the clients like, hey, text them this little JPEG. I think this collection would look great above your sofa. So anything that you can do to kind of prime the pump for those sales.
Hmm.
We just enabled slideshow uploads so you can create slideshows of wall art and albums that you can embed on your website. After the sale, upload those slideshows for your clients.
Jeez
And they have a
Louise.
share link so the clients can view it and then they hit the
Mhm.
share button and then they can share that slideshow with their friends and family,
Sure.
right? So, you know,
Grandma, look what we did. Grandma's
exactly,
crying in the corner, like, I want that on my wall.
exactly, or the sister or the aunt, creating
Hmm.
that shareability. And we just did a video on how to, it's really easy, but showing people how easy it is to, at the end of the slideshow, add your website URL and your logo at the end of the slideshow so that it is on there, or maybe your phone number, whatever, so that when your clients are sharing that slideshow, then, uh, everybody can see your name, et cetera. So that's kind of that front end marketing piece. And then the back end, what a lot of our really busy, really high earning studios will do is they'll shoot raw JPEG, bring in just the JPEG and use the auto retouching and use that for the design consultation sales session.
Okay.
And then, so everything you add to the client invoice, then up in the images menu, there's a copy list for Lightroom, and it will make a Lightroom friendly list for Lightroom. You paste that in the Lightroom search bar and it will find only those raw files for you. And that's what, and so instead of like editing 100 images, you're editing only what's ordered.
Right.
Right. Or if they have gone through Lightroom, then you can also choose to just export the JPEGs of what's been ordered and then, edit those in Photoshop and then resync them in Fundy Designer for that final export for print. Right. So
That's
like how much time can we save? Like that's the goal, right?
Well, time's more valuable than money, and
money's nice though. You can't spend minutes.
Well, we do
Amazon
every day.
doesn't take minutes. I've tried.
No. It would be nice, wouldn't it? Hi, I don't want to pay my Duke Power bill this month.
Yep.
Can I give you some minutes? But then I would be mad at myself. But yeah, appreciating how we spend our time and how effective it is to be able to impact the lives of our customers too, right? And we want to make that about like all of the retouching for those 50 images that I'm selecting for them, right? And spending 10 hours doing that and then delivering it and hope, because I'm sending it in a gallery and hope that, they're smiling so big and referring me to their friends and family versus educating your client and empowering them to make their own choices.
Yeah. And guiding
and then
them.
efficientizing.
Yeah. Right. And, guiding them and, things when you share that send the slideshows like, hey, be sure to share this with friends. And, maybe when they, and then you can also export the slideshow, upload it to Facebook and Instagram and tag them, right? So that they share on social media. So whatever we can do to increase the value of every single shoot and what people order. Things like taking photos of the album when it comes in. Take a photo and then like an hour before they arrive to pick up the album, post that and tag them. Like, see you in an hour. I've got your album all ready for you, right? And creating that excitement for them, which creates excitement for other potential clients or current clients.
Well, or just your audience in general. Then you get to actually witness and be a part of that impact in real time.
Yeah. So I heard somebody equate it to like if you are like a world-class composer and you compose a symphony and then like let the local grade school perform it. It's like you going through all this work and then letting them print it off at, Shutterfly or Costco or something. Like
Yep. Why is the face all pink?
Yeah. Why does the clarinet sound like crap? Well, because John's 8.
But because he's 8, he doesn't care.
Exactly.
No, I think that and the way that you have education set up for Fundy, I think has been really great too. Just like we've been talking and you're like, hey, just these little tweaks in how you're showing up, right? An hour before they're coming to get it, like post it on Instagram, give them a tag, like, can't wait to see you, right? Like somebody listening right now is going to be like, why have I never done that? Because they're waiting for the client to show up and then maybe the client's mood's kind of weird. So they're not going to be like, hey, can I video you doing this thing right now? Right now they're like, oh, they don't want me to. So you can still have that same impact for your audience just by prepping them for your everyday day in the life kind of stuff.
So one thing I'm not sure why this popped in my head, but it's a very important feature that can give not only a lot of control, but can really increase sales is that after you bring photos in and you do the retouching and the design wizard pops up to auto design, if you close that and then spend just 3 or 4 minutes And what I like to do, or what I recommend, is for, let's say you have, I don't know, 60 photos in there, and there's 15 or 20 that you think are going to look really great on wall art.
Okay.
If you go through and you just quickly tag those with 5 stars, for example, like whatever you
Hmm.
want, you can do 5 stars, or you can do the F key, will make it the little heart favorite, 5 stars. And then you can also do things like, if you select a photo and hit the C key for cover, that'll be the album cover, or like
Okay.
if you have a big pano, you can hit the P key, so that photo's the pano in the album. So if
Okay.
you spend 2 or 3 minutes doing that and then click the design wizard, the album, right, it'll put that photo on the cover, do those things. But then with the wall art, you can say only use the 5 star images and only use my wall templates. And then for the cards, the thank you cards, you can also say only use the 5 star images, right? And then hit go. And then that gives you that little touch more of control of what images you'll be showing off first in the designs. Or if you're a photographer that you go through all the photos with your clients and have them choose
Hmm.
their favorites,
Yeah.
F key, F key, F key. And then with the album, wall art, and cards, you can say only use the favorites with the auto design, and off to the
Well,
races.
and the way, we sell is, we make sure that they see everything,
Yeah.
right? But like if we're running a campaign that's got an exhibition attached to it, right? And
Hmm.
like, okay, this session fee includes the value of one image that would be included in the exhibition. I don't actually let them choose from the all and the everything. I'll
Yeah.
choose like 5 images first and be like, this is what you can choose from for the exhibit.
Hmm.
Right. And so like that F function, right? Favorite function, perfect for that, right? Just bink,
Yeah.
right? And like, yes, it can be done in Lightroom, but if I'm
Hmm.
also showing wall art designs, if I'm also showing album designs, then I don't want to be toggling back and forth between two softwares. And
Yeah.
I think that's something that a lot of people don't consider. They're like, well, I could do this part in Lightroom. Like, well, if you have a tool that you're using that's elevating and like doubling and tripling your average sale, you want to stay there.
Yeah. And if you
And
do your stars in Lightroom, they will travel through once you import, which is nice.
oh, cool. So what
Yeah.
happens when we get money in the hands of creatives?
I don't know, but myself, I spend it on stupid crap. But luckily, I have a wife that's a little bit more controlling with the dollar. So,
Well, no, I was asking some of the people
well,
that I
this is
help
what I
manage.
do. You can see. So I spend it on race entries. Those are my running medals. So I'll spend them on
That's
entering.
awesome.
Yeah. Well, you get a medal, you get a free beer, and a free t-shirt, all for
Okay.
the low price of like 85, $90 per race.
So wait, you're telling me if for $90 I can hate my life for the duration of the race, have pajamas and a beer.
Um, if you want to phrase it that way, or I get to hang out with other really cool people on the
Okay.
weekend, get some endorphins going, some
Okay.
serotonin going, and get free beer and so many high fives. You get so
Okay.
many high fives. Yeah.
No, I do love a good high five fest. There's a gym here locally and we do the Beer City 5K.
Yeah.
Well, there's the Beer City 5K and then there's the Beer City half marathon and la la la. So I'm always cheering on the sidelines. Like I'll
Mhm.
rep, the Beer City CrossFit gym and just like everybody coming through and we're always at the end, right? I guess they put the CrossFit people like the cheerleaders like at the very end because we're
Yeah.
just all bananas, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, did you die? You haven't died. Keep going.
Keep
High
going.
five. Like all of the things. But seriously though, like we were having the conversation around what happens when we put money in the hands of creatives.
Mhm.
Because with photographers, I joke a lot about like I want to shoot and get paid. But so many photographers are living in the land of feast or famine or just barely making ends meet and, living in the stereotypical cliche, I'm an artist, I have to suffer space.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have to be that way. And so, like, when I get a chance to speak with, people like you are creating tools for people to do just that, like, what's the biggest objection you guys hear about when you speak to photographers in this space? Like, what are they concerned with?
So The biggest objection that everybody says, no matter where they live, is that, oh, yeah, I couldn't do that where I live.
Not in my town. Hmm.
That's not in my town. But that's the biggest objection. I was like, I know people literally where you live that are doing great. You know,
Hmm.
well, I don't live in a big city. Awesome. You actually probably make more money in a small town because people value family more, you know?
Hmm. Well, and it's true. It's funny in metropolitan areas like Chicago. I was talking to a photographer in Chicago the other day, and he's in the like 500 to $1,000 a month trying to figure it out on
Yeah.
his own kind of space. And I was like, okay, hey Siri, how many photography businesses are registered in the Chicago metropolitan area?
Yeah.
1,940. And I was like, and you're not even registered yet. And you're
Yeah.
fighting with 1,900 other photographers for $50 sessions.
Yeah.
What if you actually had the capacity to make 1,000, 2,000, $3,000 for a session and really only be in competition with 10 other photographers? And then the choice is no longer about price, it's about style and what you do for them.
Mhm.
And what you do for them is decorate their homes, give them tangible evidence that this version of themselves actually exists. Like it's a whole process that comes together.
Yeah.
But it can't be had when we're pretending, when we're playing at being in business.
Yeah.
And once you're in business, it's about your responsibility to effectively generate revenue and be in such service for your clients that they can't help but choose you over and over again.
Yeah. No matter where you at, there are people who value quality things
Mhm.
and like to spend money. You know, every time I hear is like, well, I live in the rural area, small town. I'm like, how many people have a truck that costs over 70 grand? They're like, oh, a lot of
Mhm.
people. Well, there you go. You know,
Well, and then it's about buying motivations at that point,
yeah,
right? How do I deliver value? Everybody talks about value and it's like, well, what motivates them? What motivates them to spend 70K on a truck? What
yeah.
motivates them to spend $1,400 on an iPhone? What
Mhm.
motivates them to get groceries at Target versus Walmart? Right? Like all of the answers to that are in what they value. So if they value longevity, they value legacy, if they value exclusivity, if they value tailoring, it doesn't really get much easier, does it?
Also, I think one thing that is really important, and this is across industries, like I do a little bit of like I'll consult with other business people completely outside the photo industry,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody is the same because I think one of the number one things is to realize that you are not your client,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, for example, like I don't like I'm a Steve Jobs type of guy. Like I'm a jeans and t-shirt every single day until I die, right? But if I'm targeting clients that value tailored suits, I can do that and not be into tailored suits myself also. Like that's perfectly okay. Like
Yeah,
realize that you can target a clientele that is not you,
absolutely.
right? You know, and also I think that a lot of times photographers, same as every other occupation, will not value photography because it comes easy to them. And so they don't understand that other people will value it because they don't. It's like contractors, not understanding how to raise their prices because they know how easy it is to, tear out some carpet and put in flooring. It was like, well, yeah, it's
Mhm.
easy for you. It's not easy for other people, or do they have time, right? So it's like you have to create value for other people and target your audience, and that is not you. That's your clientele.
Yeah, absolutely. My very, very first sales job, God, and it was door-to-door sales for a water filtration company
Oh, that must have been fun.
in Florida
Yeah.
in July, right?
Yeah.
And
Perspiration.
oh man, and I was just this little like goth punk rock girl, right?
Yeah.
And so just covered, head to toe in like fishnets and lace and leather, like,
Yeah.
and I'm knocking on these doors like, "Hi, how's your water doing?" But there was, a demonstration portion of the pitch, right?
Yeah.
And I remember they give you like this briefcase that has this thing you can just hook up to their water faucet
Yeah.
and then make a pot of coffee. And I remember I was with a friend of mine. We were paired up that day, And we're going through and door slamming our face, door slamming our face, door slamming our face. And the first time we sat down and actually got to experience the byproduct of the filtration and then the coffee.
Yeah.
And both of us like, and now granted, I'm in Sarasota, Florida, Bradenton, Florida, Naples, Florida, Venice, Florida.
Yeah.
Like most of the people we were seeing were over 65 and retired or almost retired, right? But some people would let us in and okay, these poor kids are so sweaty, right? Both of us took a sip of coffee at the same time and we're like, oh, that's really good. You know, and it was just it really hit me about like believing in your product, even if you're not your client.
Yeah.
Right. I could not afford $8,000 water filtration system in my home. That doesn't mean that I can't speak about it with enthusiasm. That doesn't mean that I can't share it with the world. Yeah. And we get so tripped up but I would never spend $3,000 on a photo shoot. Like that's cool. Why you sell at the end.
Yeah.
So tell me, what is happening with Fundy this year? What's coming up? What are you excited about?
So we just launched the unlimited slideshow uploads. So when you launch the slideshow module, actually, I don't think we've enabled the auto update quite yet as if we're recording. When it goes live, it'll be updated. You can download it off the website. I think it's going to go live next week. And our slideshow module is made for IPS, right? It's made for emotions and to make money. And then we are currently working on beat matching slideshows for marketing. So it'll be the same slideshow module, but you can choose beat match or that. And so that will have the auto upload. So we're working on that. And then much farther off, this is more like a spring thing next year, will be, we're currently working on signing and paying in app for products. So for example, like they decide like their IPS order, you can put it together and then click a button and then they can sign an agreement saying, yes, this is what I ordered, and then add payment.
Oh, perfect.
In there. Yeah. So
yeah, because right now there's just a clipboard.
Yeah. So when the album shows up, they can't say, no, I wanted the green leather. You're like, oh, you signed for the brown leather. Sorry.
That's terrific. Well, and you know, like I get excited about beat matching because the only app that I found that does it well is Beatleap.
Okay.
And so that's what we use for a lot of, you know, the BTS and so forth for like Instagram and all of that. But then I'll just look for a tempo, right? Like, okay, I want to use this song. This is the tempos of like, you know, 80 beats a minute. All right. Like, and then move into Instagram and find something else, you know, that has that without just, you know, canned response music. Yeah. So that's fun. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, you can find all of the links and all of the things for Fundy. I fully support you checking it out. But Andrew, where can people find you if they are like, I have questions, I need answers? Is there a Facebook group, an email address? Like, what does that look like?
So don't email me. So we have a full staff. So fundydesigner.com, you can access videos and the support staff and everything. And then on Facebook, the Storyteller Fundy Designer Facebook group is a great place. Usually we direct people, if you're having a technical problem, ping support, which people are reticent to do in this day and age because most companies have really bad support, customer support, but ours is really fast and really good, and you're going to get a better answer than just, you know, random answers on Facebook. And then if you have a question around like strategy or like what's the best way to use this feature, or, you know, other photographers, what products do you find that are selling, you know, that's where the Facebook group really shines, because it's that kind of community power of like sharing information. So yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much for being here, and oh man, I'm excited for this to air.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Thank you.